Okie dokie, so I have my coffee here, and also as an extra special treat for you, I have my breakfast. Cornflakes with fully pasteurized, unhealthy milk. I don't like oat milk, I don't like semi-skimmed, I don't like UTH, I just like the milk that comes out with the cow cleaned and ice cold. Well, it's been put in the fridge for days. So welcome along to Coffee Chat, and the title here is China, Winnie, Brendan, and the CCP and CPC. Now, first of all, for years and years, we've always been calling it the CCP. And I do have a conspiracy theory to this, because now a lot of the people, the Westerners who do propaganda in China, would say CPC. But the thing is, if you type that into Google, you can do it now, pause the video, put it in now, it would say the Canadian Party something. That would come up. In fact, I will check it now just to make sure my facts are. So I'm going to put in my computer. You can't see it, but I'm doing it here. CPC, and here we go. Cost per click, and it's doing things related to YouTube. Yeah, it does is that come up with the end going down the page. It does say Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, officially known as the Communist Party of China, CPC. But the thing is, it doesn't come up straight away. So you could say, and again, this is my conspiracy theory, that when you type that in, it's just not going to, it's going to be there, but it's going to be at the bottom of the page. And let's be honest with it, you just look at the first 2, 3, 4, 5 websites that Google would recommend for it. So it's sort of working well. So stick with CCP, because when it hits there, if I type in now CCP, let me just do it, let's double check, you can't see it, but it's okay. Here we go, it comes up straight away with the Chinese Communist Party, and then it would explain the CPC as well. So it's sort of like the Chinese government hiding themselves from it. It is the official name, granted, but for years, even China used it for years. If you go on a website called No Way Back and put in CCP, you can find some news articles from Chinese communist newspapers like China Daily or Xinhua News saying CCP. So it's a recent development. We will get to Brendan in a moment, but I've been covering him for so much, I just wanted to do something different related to that. But he did, in his last video, Brendan, actually bring some toys of Winnie the Pooh. Yeah? And Winnie the Pooh is a lovable Disney character who likes lots of honey. When I was in Hong Kong Disneyland, I had a dance with Winnie the Pooh, and we were singing, honey, 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 we want honey. This character, I'm not too sure whether it's actually been banned, but it shouldn't be related to, in China, and I don't really see why, to Xi Jinping. And he seems to be worried about that. Why? If you want to be a lovable character and you're related to Winnie, you should actually love this. Yeah? And then if you love it instead of hate it, then there's going to be better media about you, because you are related to a lovable Disney cartoon character. But Disney is American, and you could see that the CCP, Xi Jinping, just doesn't like anything, and it's very difficult to do anything nowadays. I'm going to take a break. Now, usually when I do a coffee chat, it's near enough non-stop, but I'm not feeling the best of weathers today, so in that way I just do need to clear my throat, and I've got plenty of coffee here. I hope you have your coffee chat as well. The idea of this coffee chat is like a podcast. You don't have to watch me. All I'm doing is waffling on. So when you're having breakfast in your kitchen in the morning, it's like listening to BBC Radio 2 or a podcast with Russell Brand or something. Near enough the same like that. That's what I'm trying to achieve. And again, you can agree or you can disagree, but please don't call me an idiot. Call me a muppet, but don't call me an idiot. Don't use any foul words like or etc. But constructive criticism. Yeah. And then it will say, if it's not and it's rude and impolite, well, YouTube will usually take it away with some of the words I won't allow on my channel, for example. Now, I know occasionally I would say something like BS, that's sort of like acceptable, but don't write down the whole thing. Yeah, I think that's impolite. Maybe I've just had a good education, whatever. So, he's a lovable character. So you could say Obama, he was like Tigger from the Disney, Winnie the Pooh's best friend, etc. And I think it's a great way that you have a lovable image from Disney or from, I don't know, Warner Brothers related to you, but Xi Jinping hates it. So this is what Brendan did. So as Winnie is sort of not, well, if it's combined with politics and the character, then it's not usually shown on Chinese social media. So that's what he did with playing the piano, and it's keeping away the this Chinese party that were there last week now it was, or maybe longer than that, saying you're not allowed to video in your own country, etc. Now, we did mention that in China, they do have image rights and you can ask or tell people not to. But how often do we watch videos and there's loads of breakable offences related to image rights? Someone did quote that it's the same in Japan. I don't know with that one. I've been to Japan many times. I used to work in a nightclub there years ago in the 1990s called Juliana's Tokyo. And they were constantly videoing the crowd, etc., for promotions and but they didn't do any kind of like blurred faces. It was just like open. Did they ask everyone? No, they didn't ask anyone at all, but people were happy to actually be on that bit, I would say. It's sort of like but the people do have the rights, they would say, in China. I don't know the whole story in Japan, haven't researched it at all. It's just one person saying he's a US guy living in Japan saying they do have similar, which is fine. Every country has different kind of things. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of breakfast. The screen is going to go black, but I'll be back. I'm still eating. Please wait a bit. So what else is happening in China? Well, if we go to what we call the CCP shills, they're still doing the same thing, is that the metro system is fantastic. The infrastructure of China is far superior to the United States. Quite often you would see one guy saying, oh, let's go to the underground, let's go to the metro, let's go to the subway, and compare it to New York. This is my point of view with this one. Yeah, the facade of the metro station or the underground or the subway, yeah, is fantastic. And yeah, there's a lot better than some countries in the West, some old tube stations in London or some very old ones in New York City, etc. But this is the thing. Yeah. What would you prefer? If you have to use the subway, would you prefer more trains and a shitty metro station, or less trains and a beautiful metro station? I would do the first. Yeah. If I was in London, I wouldn't use a car, for example. One, it's just ridiculously expensive for parking. I could guess the same as New York. Two, you have to pay a tax to drive in the city centre, and it's just expensive. So the metro, even though it's more expensive than China, is the cost of living. You get a higher salary in the UK than compared to than in China. I would prefer more trains. Now, in Singapore and in Hong Kong, they were built by the British, maybe with the help of the Japanese. Not too sure about that, but that's quite obvious. If you're in Singapore, it's the rush hour. There's a train, a subway train, every 30 to 45 seconds. Pretty good. So it may be crowded, but you're not going to wait a long time for the train. in Bangkok, in Shanghai, in Beijing. I did say Bangkok because it's near enough the same. If it's the rush hour, let's say from 7 to 9 o'clock, you will have to wait for 2 or 3 trains, and each train will pass every maybe 90 seconds, but on average it's 3 minutes. There are not enough trains. What the Chinese government do is constantly promote, oh, look at this train station, how wonderful it is. Oh, look at New York, oh, how dirty it is, etc., etc. What would you prefer? Huh? What would you prefer? I would prefer more trains. So you get to the place and it's less crowded in the actual train. You may be standing up, holding on to the actual holder above you, but it's not like a can of sardines, which you will see never actually happens on any of the videos. It's always going to be nice and empty. They're not going to film in rush hour. It's the positive thing. They will also, a new CCP shield will go to the homeless, and then they will talk about how clean the city is. Now, I've done videos like this before. I can go to the city center of, let's say, I don't know, New York, yeah, why not? And I can go to Times Square, and it would be pretty clean. But 2 blocks away, downtown, away from that, it can be quite dirty. It's exactly the same in China. What they're doing is promoting promoting how clean it is. Yeah, but every city has its clean parts, every city has its dirty part. There's another guy on YouTube, which I feature quite a lot, called Jerry Good. That's JERRYGOODE. And he's a South African guy. He lives in Qingdao, which is in between Beijing and Shanghai. He recently went to Xi'an. Xi'an's in the northwest where the Uyghurs live, and the news constantly goes on about difficulties with the Uyghurs and sort of like these prison camps that they're sent to. He went there again, and he did exactly the same thing. He went to the city center and around where none of these prisons are. And you can find the coordinates of these prisons, for example, but he never goes to it. So he denies that there's nothing happening. And all he's showing is just normal life. It's like if I went into London and say, oh, let's go and find some crime. During the daytime, I possibly wouldn't find it if I was in the city centre with all this shiny lights, yeah? But if I went to let's say, some dingy part of the West End, or sorry, of the East End of London, I would find it. But he doesn't go there. And if I was trying to find out something related to some bad thing in London, and I was a journalist related to that, I would go to that place. But these pathetic, and yeah, I am going to use this, CCP lovers, and deny all knowledge by showing something which is immaterial. So if any of these shills are listening, hey, go to Xinjiang, sure, but don't show us the city centre and dancing and everyone happy. Go to the locations where the Western media, as you like to call them, have been to themselves and showed, no, you can't come in. And then they may show a video of outside the prison. Go there, my friend, and show me. Then I may start to believe you. I will give you a shadow of doubt. At the moment, I give you 0. And it's even becoming laughable, yeah, that these people don't even make an effort to go and search. It's just the city centre, everyone's happy, look at the food, blah, 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 blah. Time for some more food. Also in China, you may be following the news of Taiwan, their elections, etc., etc., the first elections of 2024. Later, of course, we have the elections in America. I do actually like watching the elections in America because it's done in a Hollywood style. In the UK, it's not, and it's pretty boring. But in America, it's actually quite exciting to see. Joe Biden giving a speech, Donald Trump giving a speech, and the crowd jeering, etc., and they go on tour. Yeah, it costs billions, like millions of dollars to do so. And who do you think will win in the future? Now, I know most people on this channel, they say Donald Trump. And do I hope he wins? Well, yeah, unless there is someone better, in a way that he doesn't require money. He's not a politician like Joe Biden who's just there for the cash, because it can be a really comfortable life in the future and you don't exactly have to do much work. You just have to smile for the camera when the director tells you to smile. So this one in Taiwan. Now, many people say that Taiwan is part of China. And there's a big argument related to this, and it goes on and on. If you agree or disagree, just let me know. In 1970 something or the other, the United Nations actually said that Taiwan is an independent country. But in 1979, they said it's part of China and there's only one China. Why did they do this? I would say it's related to business, and it was a condition that China would do trade with America, with England, with many countries. And nowadays, oh, I need some coffee. Nowadays, there's only like 19 countries around the world who give the report that Taiwan is independent from China. America says Taiwan is part of China, etc., etc., in 1979, and they always seem to go back in time with this one. But I have never seen one of these shills or anyone. I've seen one guy, I will get to that in a minute, go to Taipei, the capital of Taiwan, and ask people. Now, one of my friends, Lewis Hand, has and lived in Taiwan for years and years. And before that, he used to live, I do believe, in Dalian in northern China. Dalian is a sort of like a coastal resort. And you could actually possibly, on a clear day from a tall building, see North Korea. He's lived in both states, and he has been on the street and asked people in Chinese, he does speak Chinese, is Taiwan independent? And they say, yes, we got our own currency, our own democracy, our own government, etc., etc. It's all to do with the Republic of China, which is Taiwan, and the People's Republic of China, which is the one run by Winnie the Xi Jinping Pooh, with that. But the thing is, that is the Communist Party, but the Republic of China has never been controlled by the Communist Party, so they want reunification. The Taiwanese people don't, and they're scared of this because they looked at Hong Kong as an example. Hong Kong from 1890 something or the other to 1997 was part of the British Empire, or part of the Commonwealth, and it was ruled by Chris Patten, the chief executive of Hong Kong. Then it got taken over, and the simple thing was there was a treaty signed by Margaret Thatcher and the leader of China at that time for 50 years with no change. But this is Xi Jinping for you. He doesn't go with anything international, but only when it suits him. So the military bases in the South China Sea, the international court says, no, you can't. He just ignored that. But he will like the court when it's in his favor, but just ignore it. So he seems like he has immunity. And this is the crazy thing. No one does anything about it. They just continue what they want to do. It's like a bully, that they want to do it, even though the international authority says no, they just still continue and nothing actually happens. And that's sort of like, really, I'm going to use some bad words here, I'm sorry, that really sort of like pisses me off. And you could say that China does bully people. Now, before Xi Jinping, I was in China for 2 years, 94 to 95. It was a change. You couldn't say things like Mao Zedong. You couldn't hold your hand of your girlfriend. You weren't even allowed a Chinese girlfriend. But you could get away with it, so to speak. You just had to don't say anything. Now, I covered this before. It's the same in Thailand. You're not going to say anything at all about the royal family. It's just kept stum. It's like, just don't do it. You can get by with it, but you can in private with, let's say, your brother or sister or your mum and dad. But you don't want to cause a disagreement that your dad loves the royal family in Thailand and his kids don't. So it's just sort of like a mutual understanding, and it is actually law with that. So in China, and before Xi Jinping took power, you would say nothing really got to an international thing. And the 2008 Olympic Games were putting Beijing on the map, and it was a magnificent Olympic Games. And then 2012, 2013, Xi took over. And from then till now, you would say that China has got worse, yeah, by his rule of being like a emperor and giving himself the elections continue. I will be the leader of China until I decide. And he does rule by terror. He does rule by terror. He rules by fear. If you don't vote in favor of him, then you're going to have one or two problems with that. And you could say this is a typical kind of regime of a dictator. Now, for most people who live in China, they have a job, they have a car, they have wife and kids, they have an apartment, they get reasonable money, they can go on holiday. Do they really care? No, not really. And this is what a communist country like China does. It gives a little bit to the people, like a train system, or you can own your own house or apartment for 70 years. You can travel. It's just enough to make the people happy. But they say democracy, but they will manipulate that word to Chinese democracy. Democracy only has one meaning. Break time. And welcome back. Some of the shows I do watch about China, the ones who give you the simple facts with video evidence of what's going on, would be, I will list them below so you can go and check them out. One is the China Show, and another one guy from the China Show is called Serpent ZA. One guy who I've actually had on my channel one or two times before is a English gentleman called Lewis Hand. He's back in the UK now, but he used to be, as I mentioned just a bit before, was working in Taiwan, the country of Taiwan, and also before that in the People's Republic of China in Dalian. So, and all of these people I'm talking about do speak Chinese. Some of the other ones, which I'm not going to list, and these are the pro-CCP lovers who may get paid by the propaganda department of the Chinese government. One guy who really is a muppet, and it's quite funny to watch, especially when he tries to be serious, would be Mr. Jerry Good. There's another guy called Fumumbe, something like that. He's a Colombian guy who went to China to be a teacher. But yesterday I caught him big time with his English grammar. He said, me and my family. No, come on. This is basic grammar. It's my family and I. With that, there's another guy who's a ex-copper, policeman in England. He went to work in security in Australia, and then he's been in China for 20-something years, is Jerry's take on China. And you will see these are all propaganda, and there will always be the positive thing. There's others, but this is just to name a few. There is one guy in New York City called Danny Haifong. He went to the United Nations to speak about something, but the United Nations was so bored of his speaking that it was quite a funny video, and I don't know why he posted this on his channel, that the United Nations personnel, the staff, the ambassadors, the chief of staff, etc., whoever, were just like, oh my God, what is this guy rabbiting on about? And actually just like starting to text their friends or their wife saying, what's for dinner? And with this ridiculous Muppet, I'm going to say Muppet because that's quite a polite word, talking about, well, we don't know because it's actually really boring. And this is where I sort of get my information from. Now, I do believe there is a story. There's two sides to every story. So you may see the New York Times say this, but it's very interesting to go and see what the Global Times says about something else or something that's similar. And would it be the same, or would they agree or disagree? And most of the time it would be the complete opposite. And I think news should be very objective. Just tell us what's happening, and then it's our choice whether we agree or disagree. We shouldn't be manipulated by people just putting one side of the story. Now, maybe I'm doing that, just thinking about it now, that am I just putting in one side? So I'll tell you a story. My grandfather was fighting in World War II, okay? He was killing the Germans, yeah? My auntie married a German guy, and he, or his father, was killing the British. At the time, let's say I was in high school, I was doing history A-level, and with that, it was, well, how to say, I would ask my grandfather because he was actually there in Germany, yeah? But then at the same time, my auntie's husband's father, or my uncle's father, was killing the British. And I did ask him. It was, they were both open about it. And this is why I got A in A-level history. Not because of the books and things from my history teacher, because of my great uncle and my grandfather. Every side has two sides. I've been to Vietnam, and I spoke to, at the time, this is a long time ago, like 98, 99, I did speak to one or two elderly people who were killing the Americans. But I also have spoken to American GIs and people who have retired and veterans, etc., telling me their story as well. And it's up to me whether, you could say, who I support. Do I support the Vietnamese or do I support the Americans? If I'm not too sure, it's something that I wouldn't talk about. I wouldn't engage or choose a side until I had the information. And that's what I think journalism should be about. It shouldn't be just about one side, that America is bad or America is good and China is fantastic and Xi Jinping is the best poo in the world. I know some people would say cornflakes is really unhealthy, but I love it. I'm 55 and I'm still alive. Especially with the cold milk, just makes it perfect. It's my breakfast, not too much, not too little. So, if we go to Brendan, the pianist from King's Cross St. Pancras, just playing the piano, and you can see some of his interactions before on his channel. He's got 2.1 million views, so he's actually doing something right, and it's his living. Because it's not mainstream media, and it was a live stream, you could see everything which was happening. Yeah? And what do you think of Brendan? Yeah, he was standing up for his rights. He was standing up for his rights with a policewoman and saying, and she said, you can't do that. And they can't do what? It's a free country. We have a democracy. Yeah. So imagine if I went to China, for example, and this is what Brendan said, started playing the piano, and some people said, stop playing, it's not allowed. We want to play, you've had your time. How would you react in that country? You would possibly say, sorry, I didn't know the laws, my bad, here's the piano, or please can I have another 5 minutes while I finish off my video, whatever it is. But not to say you're not allowed, by the Chinese vlogger, I think she's been put to shame now, saying you're not allowed because we have this disclosure. From who? From the Chinese television station? We don't really know. Was it from King's Cross management? I don't think it would be on a yellow piece of paper, etc., etc. And And as I mentioned before, if they really wanted to do something for a surprise for the Chinese New Year celebration, this year, Chinese New Year is on February the 10th. And before February the 10th, on the 9th, the New Year's Eve, they will have this big thing on TV. It's a live show. It has billions of people, you could say, around the world watching it. It's actually quite boring. And some of the singers who are singing don't actually sing live. It's just a lip sync. So there are some speculations that this video that they were making was meant to go live, but recorded. So they didn't want anyone, they couldn't do it live because they are in a democratic country, and they didn't want someone with a sign saying "Free China" or "Release the Uyghurs" or "Genocide" or whatever they may say. So if it's recorded, like most of the shows are in China, they can be edited and they are safe, or they could find another place. They decided to do it right in the public center. They didn't check out the environment. I think Brendan is completely right. On my channel before, or one of my programs before, or videos before, there is, I've really got to finish this. Hold on. Okay, that's better. I'm back. You can see some of the comments. Now, I went on to Weibo, which is the Chinese Twitter or the Chinese X, and a Google Translate was actually quite funny, but you could get my meaning that some people were just really against Brendan. Now, whether they are right or whether they're wrong, what do other people think in China? I don't know. And it's sort of something that when I do chat to my friends, I actually haven't got around to it for people in Shanghai, because we talk about other things. I do have friends in Hong Kong. I do have friends in Shanghai. I haven't been to Shanghai for getting close to 11 years now. Now, I don't know whether I would actually be allowed in China because of this channel. And I'm not actually willing to find out. Later this year, I am sort of thinking about going to Japan, but there is no direct flight to Japan, and there is a cheaper flight if I go via Hong Kong. Hong Kong is part of China nowadays, and with that, would I be sort of like summoned to secondary immigration? So, but I'm not willing to find out. I can fly from here to Bangkok to Japan. It doesn't take long to do so, and there's the peace of mind. Taiwan, yeah, no problem. I could go to. I'm not going to have any troubles there. But I don't want to sort of like at my age say, no, you're not allowed. Come with me, and the policeman just taking me off in handcuffs and going to a prison camp somewhere in the northwest of China to be, well, as they say, disappeared, never to be seen again. I really am going off topic. So the thing is, with this whole thing that happened in King's Cross St Pancras, which is the right title of the train station, it's a double name, because near enough, if you ever go there, they are linked together. They're not separate, they are linked together. King's Cross St Pancras. I look at the video, and I've watched it countless times, and I try to keep an open mind, and I try to listen what the Chinese people said. Their English was actually really good, and there was one girl there who claimed to be a British citizen but supported the CCP, which brings us to another story of these Confucius Institutes in these universities around the world. Now, the Confucius Institute is meant to be, like you could say a students' union in a way, where people can learn about the Chinese culture, the history of culture. They can learn all what the Chinese would say about their country. But it's more of a manipulation place that West is bad, East is good, etc., etc. There are some people who do go to be educated in China as well, related to university. But here's the thing. If you are in America, you're a student and you go to the University of Miami, for example, would you actually want on your resume that you've been to studied for 1 year in the University of Shanghai? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? I would say personally, because of reputation of what's happened in China, maybe it's true or not, we don't know. But I would keep away from it, and I would get something for, I've been to, I don't know, the University of Japan or the University of Taiwan, for example, because it's a democracy, and that's going to help you get a job. So these Confucius institutes are like what we've seen before, and the evidence is there with the secret police stations. Maybe this group of Chinese in King's Cross in Pancras were, well, we don't know. We know one was a vlogger. We don't know so much about the other people. It was mentioned later that there were many emails or messages sent to Brendan related to life-threatening problems, saying, I will shoot you. And then in the video itself, they did say, shoot you. And then some rumors started sparking off that the guy who was shouting at Brendan was saying this. And some people were saying, he's got a gun, he's got a gun. He's like the Chinese Communist Party secret service. So is he allowed to carry a gun? Well, in England, the answer is no. And would he have a license for it? I don't know. I'm not in the law or anything. It gets all complicated, and international information agencies, etc. You get my drift with that. I think that I have waffled on long enough on this video, and I've got a million things to do today, like eat breakfast, drink coffee, lunch, Netflix, maybe a bit of exercise, getting into the town on my motorbike, enjoying Cambodia. So let's leave it there for today. I hope you enjoyed this little coffee chat, but here, my coffee is cold now, and I will wish everyone a happy day and see you sometime in the near future. God bless to all. Happy days. Bye-bye.